Welcome back to another off-season episode of the Jag Bros. I'm one of your co-hosts, JT Raymond, alongside my two brothers, Jack and Joey. We're gearing up for the draft. We're debriefing what happened or what didn't happen in some of the free agency moves. But man, this is a fun sports time of year. We got March Madness going on. We have the Masters coming up in a couple weeks. My Florida Gators made the Sweet 16. They're playing later tonight, so fingers crossed that we'll see them in the Final Four. Joey, your Baylor Bears didn't quite get it done against Duke last weekend.
No, we played hard. Our center was out, so we had no height, which was really hard against Duke.
And it's also opening day. We are recording Thursday, March 27th for all you baseball fans as well. But we are the Jag Bros, so three brothers, diehard Jags fans. And this is actually season 3. So with a new NFL year, we just kind of moved it on to this is our third year of getting to do this. Love getting to do this with both y'all, JT and Joey. And love the Jacksonville Jaguars. Love Jaguars fans. Excited for a new era. Brand new coaching staff, brand new GM. But before we get rolling, I did want to give a shout out. We always love getting 5-star ratings and reviews. Helps us reach more Jags fans all over the world, which is still pretty crazy to me. But this was, of course, with the title Duval. It said, Jag Bros always brings energy to my week. Love the hot takes and forecasting. Scott 42009. Thank you for the 5-star rating. Again, if you love the content, make sure to share this with others. But let's go ahead and jump in. So the Jags signed 10 free agents. They were the only team in the NFL not to bring back any of their current free agents. Of course, since we've been on the pod, Evan Ingram was cut. Christian Kirk was traded, which we talked about last episode. Mitch Morse retires. So a lot of different moves. So as you look at the Jags roster right now, Joey, what are the biggest position needs for the Jags going into the NFL draft less than a month away?
I think our biggest position need at the moment right now would be a safety. Eric Murray, the guy that we signed, is average. He's a little bit older. I think he's like 31. Hasn't ever played that well. He played okay with Houston last year. Not great. We have Savage. He's also okay. And then you got guard and Antonio Johnson, who had a real poor season last year. So I feel like that's a position where you want to get someone early. There's not that many great safeties. So if we do pick one, I would say we have to go in the first. It's got to be in the first 3 rounds, most likely in the first 2 rounds. If you want a possible starter, I think that's a position that you could start right away. Center is another one. We got Hainsey. He's lost his position last year to a rookie. He knows the Liam Coen offense. He seems to be good, but definitely could have an upgrade there. He could just kind of be backup as well. Luckily, we're not paying any of these free agents that much, so I feel like pretty much any of them could be a backup and a rookie could come and start. Those are the 2 top ones, I think. And then obviously third would be our third edge guy. I mean, we have no one behind Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker right now, other than yes, sir. He's done absolutely nothing. And Miles Cole, who was a 7th round pick last year, who good for a 7th round pick, but he's no third edge rusher. So that is probably a position you got no competition right now. You have to go fill. So those are my 3 top positions of need right now.
Yeah, Jack, I'll let you comment on something you said offline. I thought it was so spot on when you're looking at the free agency, what we did or did not decide to end up doing, and mentioning that you felt like, hey, this is just a signal that we are not trying to compete really this year because we're not trying to make any splash signings. And so when you look at what we did, we got a whole lot of guys who could be decent depth pieces that might have potential to be bigger, but it was a lot of cheap guys along the offensive line. We signed 4 or 5 guys there, either starters or backups from other teams. Diami Brown, who's a wide receiver, we signed to a 1-year deal from the Commanders. He kind of popped during the postseason, so he was kind of on the lower end of the wide receivers available. But I like that pick. That's somebody that hasn't had a lot of good quarterback play until this year, and even still, they had a rookie, and he was buried behind Terry McLaurin. So a 1-year, $10 million deal for Dyami Brown, I think it's a really, really smart move because that is, I mean, I could easily see him getting more into the starting rotation than even Gabe Davis going into next year.
I don't need to see any more Gabe Davis 200 something yards and drop touchdowns and getting mad at Trevor Lawrence and doing nothing on the field. And I'll even say, just as we talk about positional needs, I think wide receiver has got to be a big one, because if you look at this is a wide receiver room that is pretty much purely BTJ. And heaven forbid, I'm thinking about, and let me know in the comments if I need to go order a BTJ jersey. But I love Brian Thomas Jr., but if he goes down with an injury, you're talking about not just a bad wide receiver room, but I would say the worst wide receiver room in the entire NFL. Gabe Davis, Dyami Brown, Parker Washington. I mean, that is brutal for when you want Trevor Lawrence, a new head coach, a new offense coordinator. You want this offense to take off this year. You want Trevor Lawrence to finally prove it. This is a wide receiver and a tight end room right now that is significantly weaker with Kirk gone, Ingram gone. So I actually put both those down, but wide receiver for sure. You need someone that can go make plays other than BTJ. I like the Dyami Brown low risk, high reward move, but it's a 1-year deal. You need another playmaker for Trevor.
Some context on Dyami Brown. I listened to a James Gladstone interview, and he was talking about how he actually scouted Dyami Brown going into the draft he came out of. He was his favorite wide receiver. He's been on his list of people he's watched. That's why they were so happy, apparently, when they signed him in free agency, is because he sees so much potential in Dyami Brown that's just been untapped and not been given a chance yet. So I trust James Gladstone right now, and so I'm excited to see kind of what James Gladstone sees in him.
For what it's worth, and I missed on BTJ, or I was a lot more negative on him, but I was really high on Mooney, who ended up going to the Falcons. I'm really high on Dyami Brown. I think that was a really smart pickup, and we could look up and see him over 500 yards receiving next year for the Jaguars.
I'm more optimistic about this free agency class than a lot of others. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, we didn't get a splash pick and everything. Well, guess what? We've been trying to do splash plays in the free agency for years now, and it hasn't worked. Like, there's not that many teams that you make your team out of free agents and make it far. Like, it has to be through the draft, and I feel like James Gladstone sees that, and he's rather get depth where they could start, or you could possibly not start, and you're not overpaying them, and there's like almost no guaranteed money. So if it doesn't work out, you can cut them, and then you draft and you develop. And I think that this is honestly a pretty good year that a lot of these guys are 23, 24 coming out of the draft. They're ready to start now. This isn't like when they're 20 to 21. A lot of these people have been in college for 5 to almost 6 years.
Jack, I'll let you comment on free agency in a second, but the one thing that's really exciting to me is the numbers make sense, because here's what Balky would have done with Dyami Brown. I like Dyami Brown. I'm excited, but I'm not like, he hasn't proven himself. A 1-year, $10 million deal makes a ton of sense. What Balky would have done is given him 4 for 60, and we would have been stuck with him for forever if he actually turned out to be bad. And so it's so refreshing when you see decisions that just make sense.
100%. And that's part of what I liked. So here's what I liked about the Jags free agent moves. I think number one, to both y'all's points, it sets us up nicely for the draft. Look, Gladstone has been saying over and over in the little over a month that he's been the Jags GM. He's going to build and develop through the draft. That is clearly what he is going to do. So number one, disciplined spending. To your point, JT, we did not break the bank on anyone. We do need to mention the biggest signing, which was Jordan Lewis, cornerback from the Cowboys. That's a very nice move. Cowboys fans love him. He's a trash talker. He brings intense energy. Daniel Griffiths, a great follow on X for all Jags fans. He tweeted this out from NFL Plus Stats that he was one of the top 4 slot corners in a bunch of stats, including target percentage. He was number one with just 12% of targets his way. Number 4 in completion rate, number 1 in ball hawk rate among slot corners in the NFL. So I like that as discipline. The other thing, which I did not know, Joey, was the Gladstone connection with De'Ami Brown. But I love that it seems like these guys are all starting to work together. And there was a lot of new Jaguars that have a connection to someone high up in the Jaguars organization. So Hainsey, you pointed out, Joey, from the Bucks, that of course is connected with Liam Coen. I'm sure he vouched for him in his time in Tampa. And then you got 2 guys from the Vikings, which is where our offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski, comes from, in the tight end, Johnny Munt, if I'm saying that right. And then the backup quarterback, Nick Mullins. And then you also had a guy from the Rams, which is where Gladstone came from, backup tight end Hunter Long as well. So you're looking at 5 out of 10 of these free agents all having a direct connection, correlation. So to your point, JT, it's not the Trent Baalke, hey, this guy seems good, Shad Khan's going to write me an unlimited check, I'm just going to go take a shot on him. These were guys that they liked for their system. There's clearly, at least at this point, a much more unified approach from the Jags front office, from the coaching staff. And that's just something we have not had in Jacksonville since, frankly, 2022. So almost 3 years now.
So let's look a little bit at the draft. I think this is a fun one. We'll start on the first pick. Jaguars obviously have the 5th overall pick. And so there's 3 guys that I'm really eyeing in here. And I think for us, it's going to be really interesting to see where Shedeur Sanders goes. Because if somebody will be willing to take him in the top 3 picks, whether it's the Giants or whether it's somebody else trading up to be able to get him.
It just reported today from Adam Schefter that Cleveland is going to hold a private workout here with Shedeur. Yeah, I mean, I could see him going number 2 or 2nd round. Feels crazy.
Yeah, and we really need him to go in that top 3 or 4 picks, because for us at 5, to me, I think there's 3 guys that I really, really want. And then obviously Cam Ward will go to the Titans number 1. And those are Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, and Abdul Carter. And if Shedeur Sanders sneaks into that top 5, then we're guaranteed to get one or have the opportunity to get one of those 3. Otherwise, it could work out to where we don't get any of those 3, and that would be a real disappointment, because all 3 of them were exceptional last year on the field and have had pretty decent to exceptional offseason combine and other workouts.
I think even if Shedeur Sanders doesn't go, we have a fairly good chance with Mason Graham. A lot of reports saying that the Patriots would go Will Campbell, that go offensive line. Obviously, I think if the Browns don't get Shedeur Sanders, then they'd go Abdul Carter. Giants would do Travis Hunter. Patriots would do Will Campbell. Or a lot of people are now saying maybe Mimbo could sneak in at the Patriots, be the first offensive lineman to go, and then we'd go Mason Graham. So I feel like it's Mason Graham if Shedeur Sanders doesn't go in the top 2, but if he does, then we do have a shot at Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter.
The dream is Abdul Carter. That dude is a freak. That dude is awesome. To put Abdul Carter and Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker all in the same field, that is the best defensive line in NFL, and they're all young guys under long-term deals. So that would just be so much fun, create a ton of havoc. And then I think you would also see our defense greatly outperform to where the sum could actually be, the performance could be better than the sum of the parts. And so that would be really fun for a Jaguar fan.
What's great about Abdul Carter is not only is he an edge guy that can rush, but he can also drop back and be a linebacker. So it just allows you to make a few different positions for him. So no matter where he is on the field, he can get on the field, pretty much is what I'm saying. He's one of those Swiss Army knife guys. He's not just an edge or just a D tackle. He can play multiple positions, and you can find a way to keep him on the field, even if you have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen on the edges.
I love Carter. He's number 2 on my Jags big board, but number 1 has got to be Travis Hunter. And in some ways, it probably doesn't matter because I would be beyond stunned if both of them were on the board there at 5. I guess in theory, the Jags could maybe trade up and move up a spot or 2. There's some Jags fans that want to do that for sure for Hunter. Look, I mean, the reality is we have position needs at both wide receiver and corner, and Travis Hunter is a generational player, Heisman Trophy winner, was just amazing at Colorado. And I think the concerns about personality or anything like that, that's just all overblown. But he does bring legit star power to Jacksonville. In many ways, I've listened to a bunch of his interviews. He feels like a perfect fit. He's just a chill guy. He loves to fish. He loves to play football. He loves to study the game. And that would be a really, really fun option if he lands there. For number 5, I think he would be our starting outside corner, then give us, maybe 10 to 12 snaps at wide receiver.
I could see even more wide receiver, honestly. I could see him actually being the starting wide receiver and then having packages on defense where he plays outside corner and you kind of switch him in and out with Jarian Jones. That way he doesn't have to play full both ways. But not luckily, but like with us not having a starting outside corner, you can kind of rotate that position and see how that would go.
I just trust our front office to make the right decision, which how many times can we say that in the last 20 years as Jaguars fans? And you know what? Maybe the only reason why I'm saying that is because we haven't actually seen the proof is in the pudding on this team. But like, look, the hope abounds eternal when you have nothing but upside right now for Jags fans. So yeah, I'm excited. I trust our team. And look, if one of those 3 guys is there at 5, just pick them. Close your eyes. It doesn't matter if we are already stacked at defense line. It doesn't matter. You need playmakers. One of the things that we've harped on over the last 12 months is you look up and down the roster. Yeah, like we are quote unquote improved at a lot of positions, but there's not a whole lot of difference makers. There's not a whole lot of playmakers. BTJ, yes. Josh Hines Allen, yes. But outside of that, there's some up and coming guys, and then there's a whole lot of
So here's the big question. If those 3 guys are not on the board, I think, of course, the number one option would be, okay, let's trade back a few spots. But that may not be a reality because this isn't a top-loaded draft where you may have a ton of teams calling. So I just heard a mock draft yesterday from PFF and Bootleg Football where these guys were gone. Again, Mason Graham is, 50, 60, 70% of mock drafts right now for the Jags. They in the 10 free agents that they signed, none of them were on the D line. It feels like Gladstone has preached trenches. That could and maybe is the move. But if he's gone and the other 2 guys are gone as well, I saw an Ashton Jeanty pick at number 5 for the Jaguars.
We're not picking a running back. No, that's not the Rams style. And look, we're trying to build a Rams type of team. We're not going Ashton Jeanty. I think he's awesome. That'd be a fun pick, but I think they would have tried to deal ETN earlier, and we can't waste another top 3 pick on a running back.
No, yeah. The only way that would make any sort of sense is if you traded ETN, and with ETN, I mean, there's not even been a single rumor about people like looking at him or him being on the market. So I just don't see that happening. I've seen also Tyler Warren as at number 5. That would be so dumb. A tight end. We already have 3. Liam Coen isn't a massive tight end head coach. So why would we want to go and get Tyler Warren when we have Brenton Strange and we just signed 2 people? A 4-person tight end room is just dumb.
Tight end at 5 is really high too, but I agree. I like Tyler Warren. I'm really high on him, but he doesn't fit
nowhere near a 5 pick. The only tight end that's ever been close to a 5 pick is Brock Bowers, and that's because he's the next Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski. Like he looks like he's going to be a Pro Bowler right away. Tyler Warren looks awesome too.
Yeah,
I mean,
he looked awesome. He looked
awesome and then don't do anything. Like
I get it, but Penn State tight ends typically do really well. He looked awesome in the postseason play with Penn State.
Oh, really?
Like the only weapon.
I thought you hated Brenton Strange. So
Brenton Strange is fine. Yeah, they can have some bad ones, but like historically, Penn State has had really good ones. And oh, by the way, unlike Brenton Strange, Tyler Warren had a crap ton of production there at Penn State. So yeah, I'll take Tyler
tight
Warren.
ends. Liam Coen doesn't seem to want to throw to tight end. Like
that is a fair point.
Otten, he went and got a bunch of blocking tight end. Like doesn't seem to be his thing. That's the reason we got rid of Evan Ingram. You don't
The
let
reason
Evan
we got
Ingram
rid of
walk.
Evan Ingram is his age and cost.
He wasn't that expensive. You saved $6 million by him walking. 6. That's it. That's nothing. You're paying De'Ami Brown more. Like, you
Well, yeah, 'cause
don't
he's a
let
wide
him
receiver.
walk if he fits in your system. He obviously didn't fit, so that's why you get rid of him.
Here's what we also need to
I
think
scare you.
on the ETN thing too. I'll just say, I think we need to get out of the mindset of, oh yeah, like he's been a starter. He's going to be clearly Gladstone. Just because someone has had success in the past does not mean he's ready to roll with them. There's even been rumors and reports about Trayvon Walker. I don't think we're trading him, but I'm just saying ETN is going to be a free agent next year. There's no way we sign him. Tank Bigsby, maybe he likes him, maybe he doesn't, but Tampa ran a lot of good running backs. And I'm just saying there's a Jacksonville connection. There's a star power connection. And again, if those three guys are off the board. Now, for me, my pick would be wide receiver Ted McMillan. He's such an obvious great fit with BTJ. He's a big, tall, go get the ball. He dominated at Arizona, back-to-back 1,300-yard seasons. The first guy to do that since A.J. Brown. I actually would rather have him over Mason Graham, which is a hot take. But you just saw with the Bengals. The Bengals just paid hundreds of millions of dollars to 2 wide receivers, and all of a sudden you're telling me we can have one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL and both be on their rookie contracts for the next 4 to 5 years? That's a pretty incredible deal to me.
I don't think Ted McMillan is a slam dunk. He's going to be a star.
Agreed.
I think he has a very good chance of being a bust.
Agreed. I would rather take the risk of Luther Burden in the top of the second round from Missouri. I loved his gameplay, and he unfortunately, my boy Xavier Restrepo just bombed it on the 40-yard dash in the combine. Otherwise, I would have loved to have gotten him. But give me Burden in the second round. To me, he's a big wide receiver that has a ton of production. I loved his film.
I don't like how he dropped off. The best wide receiver in this draft, he is not talked about enough, is Jaden Hicks. He dominated at Iowa State. He's 6'4". He's not as fast as BTJ, but he's better at contested catches. He's massive. He reminds me of a Mike Evans, and I think he could be that good. And you don't have to go get him in the first round. You can get him in the second. Some people have him dropping to the third.
I love Jaden Higgins, but you're literally describing Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan just bigger and stronger and has much better production.
Plays more and is stronger.
No, Ted McMillan is 219. Ted McMillan is bigger, and he also has way more production than Higgins. Look, I love Jaden Higgins, and if we got him at the top of the second round, I would be very happy. And if we go Mason Graham and then Jaden Higgins, I'd be very, very happy. My only concern, and the reason I don't think he's a first-round pick, is he's just not physical enough. But both these guys are very good wide receivers. And again, I like going wide receiver early because the wide receiver market has gone nuts. So if you can get a Jaden Higgins, I love Jalen Noel, the other Iowa State guy, maybe in the late third round with our second, third round pick. That makes a ton of sense to me.
The one thing I will say about the draft and about the free agency is it feels like what James in the front office have done is it's created us some optionality. It has not forced us to, oh shoot, we have no offensive lineman, we have to go offensive line with our first two picks, or oh, we have to go wide receiver with our first 2 picks, or we have to go corner or safety with our first 2 picks. All the people that he got for us are not superstars by any means, but it's not a glaring hole like it's been in the past, because that's something that I think Balky would consistently do, is he would put himself into a corner where he has to take a wide receiver in the first round, and we just need to hope we get the right one. Fortunately, we did last year. Or, hey, we have to get a defensive line because of the decisions that were made. If he sees somebody that he really likes at the position, he's going to take him because it'll almost certainly be an upgrade on what we have at the roster, but it's not like it's a glaring hole. So even if we end up going offensive line because those 3 defensive guys were taken before us at 5, or if we trade back a couple spots and get an offensive lineman and then go wide receiver in the second or third round, it feels like he's going to try to do a better job of lining up the draft capital value of those people versus what Balky would do.
I think every position for the Jags roster is on the table except for quarterback.
Yes,
I think
100%.
that is just the reality of how Gladstone views this roster. I think it is going to be, which is going to be great, a pure BAP, best available player with the exception of quarterback, which is great because this is a lousy quarterback draft class. With that said, let's go ahead and look at some day 2 targets. So the Jags have a high second-round pick, a high third-round pick, and then they also have Minnesota's third-round pick at the end of the third round. So 3 picks on day 2 of the draft. Who do y'all like here?
For the second-round pick, this is, if you go safety, you pretty much got one worth a second-round pick, and that's Xavier Watts.
Yes,
I
sir.
think he could start right away, and then you can decide between Murray or Savage next to him. I think he's a great ball hawk and can tackle, could fit right in, right there if you want to go secondary for the second round.
A turnover machine out of Notre Dame where the Jags defense just did not get turnovers last year.
Yeah, I love that pick, Joey. I would echo that. And if we hit on him, that would be huge. There's a safety, too, from Texas, Andrew Mukabu, who's a little bit lower. He could be interesting.
Yeah, he's more third round. I
exactly. Yeah. So if we're looking at more like a true later day 2, if we end up going wide receiver, something else in round 2, that's still somebody on the board that we could get because of the slow 40 time. Like I still love Restrepo. Like he looked so good all season.
You can get Restrepo in the 6th round now.
I think you can get him in the 4th round or late
don't be
3rd.
Saying you're gonna go get him in the second round. If you really want him,
but if you're looking at a late day 2, early day 3 type of guy, like I still think he could be like the wide receiver for Houston, Tank Dell, who's a 4th round guy. Now Tank Dell's faster, but I just really like his gameplay. And right
everybody
now,
is faster.
Well, true, but right now that slot position, it's so critical for the type of offense that Coen wants to run. And unless you're moving BTJ there, like that position's wide open. So I feel like we need to do. I would be shocked if we don't address that somewhere in the draft.
And then if we wanted to go trenches in the second round, I think your best bet, if he falls, some people have him in the first round, some people don't. Gray Zabel could be a guy who pushes for the starting center position. You can kick him out to offensive guard. I think if you're going to get offensive line after what we got 3 free agents right now on the team that we just got for the offensive line, you're going to want a Swiss Army knife guy that can play either center or guard that you can rotate in just in case. So that way you can push Hainsey. And if not, if a guard gets hurt, you can also push him out there. I think that would be a great Swiss Army knife O-line guy.
Is there anybody you don't want in round 2 or round 3?
A bunch of people.
Brenton Strange.
The one guy I've seen us slotted for a few times because of the wide receiver need is Egbuka from Ohio State, and I just have zero desire. I've watched almost all the Ohio State guys. Well, I just don't think he's that talented. So I could easily see him being available in the top of the second because he just does nothing. He does nothing special on that Ohio State team.
But that's his strength. And again, like we maybe are talking about very different, but like Egbuka is everything you would want Restrepo to be. Great in the slot. He has no weaknesses. He runs almost half a second faster. No, he does. He does. He's a great possession receiver. He's a good route runner. He was projected to be a round 1 guy last year, even with a crazy wide receiver class. Every Ohio State coach loves him. I don't love the pick at the top of the second round, so I'm not trying to hype him up too much because to me, Joey, I'll come back to your guy, Jaden Higgins. He would be the ideal fit because if you look at the Jaguars systems with all their new coaches, I think that's a very similar system to the Bucs where you have Higgins and BTJ who can both play outside and in the slot, similar to the Bucs with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and it's similar to the Vikings where Udinski is coming from, who had Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, and similar to the Rams, who had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp when Gladstone was there. So I think Jaden Higgins, if he's on the board, makes a ton of sense. I actually love if someone falls. I think Gladstone is going to do what we've been begging Balky to do, and that's trade up and make a move for a guy that they like. So maybe a Malachi Starks falls. Maybe, Gray Zabel, to your point, Joey, falls to the right at the beginning of the second round, and you can trade up. You have 10 picks, go up and make a move and get one of these guys that you want.
There's some interesting cornerbacks that we need to discuss as well for day 2. Could be a possibility because right now we have 2 slot corners that maybe they'll try to put them outside, but we don't really have a dedicated outside guy. And my 2 favorite day 2 guys would be Trey Amos and Darian Porter. Darian Porter, fast dude, also really tall. He was a wide receiver, I believe, at first, and then moved to cornerback. So he's got great ball skills and was really shut down at Iowa State. I watched him play when Baylor would play him, and we couldn't throw it to his side ever. And then Trey Amos also did really great at Ole Miss. I think he's a great outside corner as well that you could go get in the second to third round. No, he wouldn't be there in the third round. Both of them, most likely, you'd have to get in the second.
Let me throw one more name, and then we'll talk about day 3 draft sleepers, maybe a draft gem that keep your eye out for in rounds 4 through 7. And I'm going to follow your trend of corners. I like both those guys. Porter is fascinating to me. Only started 1 season. He's 24 years old, but he's still kind of a raw project, but his numbers are just bonkers. But the guy I would love would be Benjamin Morrison. He was slated to be a top 10 pick, gets a hip injury this year for Notre Dame, absolutely shut down Marvin Harrison Jr. in both games as an 18-year-old freshman and 19-year-old true sophomore. He's only 20 years old. He's going to need to rehab and take some time to get healthy. And so I think that's why his draft stock could slip pretty a lot out of the first round into the second. But he could be a star cornerback, a true CB1, because to your point, Joey, we don't have a great outside corner other than Campbell, and Campbell's just had a bunch of injuries too. So there's a lot of question marks in that cornerback room. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up with day 3. We won't have as many names. These are guys maybe you've heard of, maybe not, maybe a college football star that slides, such as, I'll just get it started with Cam Scatabo. Is a really, really interesting name that a lot of mocks have kind of around round 4, round 5. Power back, had a huge playoff game for. But any other guys that you're looking at on day 3? Jags have a bunch of picks here, rounds 4 through 7.
On the offensive line, there's a few really good names, I think, that could be potential stars. Jackson Slater and Caleb Webb, both coming from small schools. That are guard / center prospects. They're younger, but look really good. They're very solid in their footwork and technique. They may not start right away. You start with Hainsey, but then they could push next year or even maybe in the middle of the season if Hainsey gets hurt or something like that. I think that they could be a great pickup in day 3. And then another person on the wide receiver side, if we go late wide receiver, is Nick Nash from San Jose State. He has done really well. Tall guy, fast, great over the middle, can play slot and outside. He had big numbers this year. He's 6'3", ran a little slower, 4.5, 205 pounds, 6'2", 6'3". Had really good stats, and you could probably get him in the 5th round or so.
You know who else was I believe 5th round? Someone can double check and put in the comments who I believe also ran a 4.5, who was drafted by the Rams organization, was Puka Nacua. So maybe we can strike gold like Gladstone and the Rams organization did a couple of years ago there. All right, and JT, our resident diehard Gator fan, anything from UF that the Jags should be looking at in the draft?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think most of the Gators that will be drafted will be in the later rounds. And there's some guys that just didn't have the career that they initially were anticipating. Was it coaching issues? Was it not? A couple guys to keep your eyes on, though. Jason Marshall, he's a 5-star corner, stud guy, broke out as a freshman, and then he took a step back in the middle of his Gator career, but last year he really started playing well to the point of being a shutdown corner against some of the better wide receivers in the SEC. He's right now slated around 5. So not somebody that I would say, oh man, this guy's a stud, and Florida's had a little bit of a checkered past putting corners into the NFL. But he's somebody you could keep your eyes on the later rounds. Montreal Johnson runs really hard, and it doesn't feel like he's that fast, and it doesn't feel like he's that special, but he was pretty productive at Florida. Shamar James, very similar to the guy we got a couple years ago at middle linebacker. I think he's probably slightly more athletic than
Ventrell Miller.
Ventrell Miller, and has a higher ceiling. But Miller was more productive in college. And then Elijah Badger and Cameron DK both shined in their NFL Pro Days and the Combine, was their 40 times, really fast guys, pretty productive. They're obviously nowhere near where Ricky Pearsall was last year, but historically, the Jaguars have loved to throw some of the local fan bases a bone, either to the Gators or the Noles or the Dogs. And again, a little bit of a mixed bag, but it'll be interesting to see if this West Coast coaching staff and front office will be as keen on doing that. But those are all guys that I think are worth keeping an eye on.
I like the Montreal Johnson. He beat out Trevor Etienne when they were both there. Montreal started more than Trevor did, and then he looks like a really good, thicker running back. Runs hard, as you said, JT, which I like my running backs to do. Someone I wanted to ask you about, you didn't mention him, Cam Jackson, the defensive tackle, plays maybe a little more nose. Is he a rotational guy that we could possibly get in the later round?
If you're getting him in the 6th or 7th round, sure, but like I wouldn't. He didn't pop, in my opinion, in the Florida film, and he's
on towards the end of the year. It looked like
sure, but the whole Florida defense did. Tim Marshall popped more than he did. We've never had a lot of success drafting these 6th or 7th round defensive tackle guys. And could you plug him in? Maybe. I think he's fine, but especially if you go Mason Graham or one of these other defensive line guys up top, he's nothing special.
One more local guy is Pat Bryant, wide receiver for Illinois, played high school ball in Jacksonville. Probably a day 3 target, a big-bodied outside receiver. His speed and athleticism is going to keep him from going earlier, but he's a guy that blocks really well. He does the little things well, a great leadership culture guy that could come in and be, wide receiver 3 or 4 for the team. Again, it's just another Jacksonville guy. One more wide receiver would be Kobe Hudson, 6'1", 200 pounds out of UCF, maybe a 5th or 6th round guy. And then 2 corners, if we don't hit cornerback day 1 or day 2, to look out for day 3 would be Quincy Riley, cornerback for Louisville. Ton of experience. I don't love his ceiling, but he would make sense day 3 as a high floor, plug and play, be a solid outside or slot corner. And then Noel Williams, outside corner for Cal. He led all of college football in interception. So again, another ball hawk guy. I need someone in the secondary who can make some big plays, because even the guys that we got in free agency are not that. And I just need a defense in Jacksonville again that can get some turnovers.
One last Gator, JT. What about Desmond Watson, the 6'6", 464-pound tugboat beast?
He was a fan favorite, really fun to watch. But I don't understand how you can be in a program for 4 years and from 395 to 466, where he every single year got fatter. Like you ideally think that you're losing weight during the Florida heat and doing these practices. Either Florida strength and conditioning is sus, which I wouldn't disagree with you on that take, or Desmond is just the anomaly. But he was a fun guy to watch. He is not good at all. He's not good, but he's just so big. But he moves well for a 466 guy, but he is not special. You could, if you want to give him a tryout after the draft. He's not draftable.
Hey, that would beef up the trenches.
Terminator.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Shove him up in the middle and you can't do the tush push.
That is our breakdown preview of the NFL draft. Again, we always love to interact with you. Drop a 5-star rating review with who you want the Jags to take, especially number 1. But if you have some maybe draft sleepers in round 3 or some guys you like on day 2 of the draft, let us know too. If you're watching this on YouTube, just drop your comments on what you thought of the Jags free agency class. But again, that is kind of where we're moving towards is the draft. We're less than a month away. We're going to be tweeting about it, so make sure you follow us on X. We may drop some extra draft content on YouTube as well. But we'll be back with another episode as we get close to the draft or right after the draft, or if the Jags just make any crazy moves. But this is season 3. We're fired up. It's going to be the best season ever for the Jag Bros and for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we're going to sign it off, as always. Duval.